Would you like a little more foreplay in your life? I mean, specifically brain foreplay. Well then, tune in to the most dynamic host, Dr. Rick Perea, performance psychologist to professional athletes and the stars. No failure is final, and no topic is off limits. It's time to get real and get your checkup from the neck up here at Brain Foreplay on Mental Monday.
Welcome everybody to Brain Foreplay, where you get your checkup from the neck up on Mental Mondays. We come at you every week with a little bit of information regarding the brain, hence Brain Foreplay. I'm a psychologist, PhD in psychology, and Dr. Rick Perea, and I'm here to give you information so that you can live your life with alternative explanations and competing thoughts, so that you don't head down a road of lack of analysis, lack of consideration, so that you reach better decisions every day in your life. You know, when I was on the way to the office today, I was listening to NPR, National Public Radio, and there was a story about a kid that had been shot and killed in Memphis, Tennessee, recently in the last 2 weeks. I believe his name is Tyree Nichols. And the story on the radio said that the police chief thought that the officers who engaged in this shooting were overcome by groupthink mentality. Now, in psychology, we have long talked about groupthink mentality and delineated it and researched it, and I want to talk about it a little bit today because I think it really is very pervasive in our society, and I think we got to get better at learning how to reject it and understand it so that we don't fall into that trap. But also, let me point out this one little fact. Apparently, one of my team members here at Think One here in Denver, Colorado, the Mile High City, just pointed out to me that interestingly, the officers that shot and killed Tyree Nichols, who is black, the 4 officers were all black as well. So, and the officers were dismissed within a period of 10 days after the shooting. And that's competing with officers who are white, who oftentimes are afforded an extended period of time for defense and appeals. Just an interesting thought to think about. Let's talk about groupthink and groupthink mentality, because I think it's important to understand how often we engage in groupthink without even realizing it in our society. One of the core underpinnings of groupthink is external validation, us wanting to be externally validated. Let me give you an example. I recently started dating an individual, and I was talking to her about how often she did things with her friends and how often she went to these social galas that were fundraisers, etc. And I talked to her about the term external validation. I said, you know, some people who have excessive thirst or need for social situations really, at the core level, the psychological level, are looking for external validation. And for some people, not necessarily her, but for some people, when you talk about external validation, it kind of skips right over their head. They think about, oh, well, maybe that's not me because I don't need to be on TV, I don't need to be on magazine covers, I don't need to be in photographs, whatever it may be. But external validation takes on more subtle roles in our life. And that is that we need excessive validation through friendships, through our occupation, through Instagram, social media. So I think it's really interesting that we have social media, which I'm coming to you on today. but also the external validation piece of that, we don't delineate, we don't talk about. And because of that external validation thirst, if you will, that can often breed or cultivate groupthink mentality. And the risk we run of engaging in groupthink mentality is that we're not thinking independently. We're not thinking for ourselves. We're not thinking based on our belief and value system. And that's dangerous. That is literally dangerous, because when we think and we're strongly influenced by others' belief systems and other value systems, then number one, we hijack our own methodologies for who we are, our individualism, who I am, ethnically, racially, educationally, socially, culturally. That's the beauty to me, people, of knowing people and going to different countries, is discovering new, discovering different than me. One of the reasons males and females are attracted to each other, because there's differences. If we were so homogenous that we were the same, there may not be the attraction. So the external validation thirst fuels the groupthink mentality. And I think we've really got to be more judicious, more analytical, and more critical thinking when it comes to that. Because, I'll give you an example for me. I dress pretty progressively. I wear a lot of different funky clothes, different colors. And sometimes people will say, well, you can pull that off, Dr. P. And I'm like, no, anybody can pull it off, because all you do is put it on, walk out your door, and believe in yourself. But it's amazing to me that we're in the year 2023, and if you take the average white male, 45 years old, who's in an occupation, an accountant, a teacher, a firefighter, whatever, they predominantly wear three colors, brown, black, and gray, in their social context. And if you wear something outside of that, pink, purple, aqua, whatever it may be, wow, he's really loud. He wears bright colors. We're actually persecuted for being individual, being able to think independently. And that's what I mean by, in our society, that lack of external validation to fit in. Now think about that. External validation to fit in. It starts in elementary school, in middle school, in high school, to fit in, that we lose so much of ourselves. We lose who we are. We don't even know who we are. Most of us do not even know who we are at a core level. And we'll never get there unless we extinguish the majority of this need for external validation, this need to fit in, this need to be congruent. It's okay to disagree with your best friends. It's okay to disagree with your family. It's okay to disagree with your colleagues. And in fact, if you don't tell them how you're feeling, and I'll add this, always do it in a respectful way. But if you don't bring that to the table, we'll never get emotional intimacy. We'll never reach a high level of emotional intimacy. You'll just know me at a surfacey level. You'll just know me at how's the weather? How's the Nuggets? How's the Broncos? How's the Patriots? You'll never know me at a core level. So we've really got to think about extinguishing this need, this thirst for external validation. And then we won't have as much groupthink in our society. If it's true that these officers engaged in groupthink, if it's true that a board who voted on the ouster of a police chief or a school principal in a case where there was a shooting at their high school, and there is groupthink going on in those votes, think about what we're losing, people. Think about the group mentality of a national election for a president. So we are really at risk as a democracy, as a society, unless we can decipher and delineate and be true to how I think, feel, and behave. And the best thing we can do as parents in our home is encourage independent thinking, encourage critical thinking skills, encourage critical inquiry. That's so delicious. Critical inquiry, that means you have a thirst to know, a need to know is what we say in psychology. But if we do not make a conscious effort to do these things, then we will cultivate a society that wants to fit in, that wants to be congruent. And I'm not saying that we go the opposite and we have a society of social unrest. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we have a society of independent thinkers, free thinkers, and people who can communicate to each other and really give them their viewpoint. You know, I see so many families in my practice. Again, I'm a psychologist. I see so many families that left emotions and feelings unexpressed. And that doesn't go away, people. I call it the trash can of emotions. If you don't empty a trash can after a once in a while, it's going to overflow. And it's going to overflow in different dysfunctional ways. So we've got to learn to be more expressive, more the ability to express our feelings in a very succinct, sequential, and loving way. We don't want to attack people if you disagree. You can respectfully disagree with people. You just have to use the words to communicate that. You know, in families that don't express thoughts, feelings, and perceptions, we call them emotionally vacant families. And I would estimate that most families in society have a certain degree of emotional vacancy, but you don't know it. And that's the critical part about it, is families are walking around thinking they're successful because they have college degrees, they have incomes in the six figures, they have a nice suburban home and nice cars, and they travel. And that's not success, people. Success at the core level is your ability to communicate true core competencies, thoughts, feelings, and perceptions. And the only way we're going to reach that is to minimize that need for external validation. You know, this friend of mine that's on a gathering with her friends, and they're in their 40s, 50s, and even 60s, it reminds me of 22-year-old frat girls, you know, going on a party and, you know, giggling and having fun with each other. And that's cool. I don't have anything against that. But as we get older, I think it's important that we take the time to think, feel, and perceive for ourselves, and be willing to look at your best friend, your colleague, and say, you know, I disagree, but let me tell you why, and support it. And then we're able to really reach a higher level of emotional intimacy when we do that. So I just want to review our lesson for the day. Is I really want our society to reach a higher level of emotional intimacy through, you know, minimizing this thirst for external validation, which really will cultivate groupthink in a larger society. And I started out with a police shooting. You know, at the highest level of groupthink, people will lose their lives. At the lowest level of groupthink, people will lose their lives. And what I mean by that is people will live a life that's emotionally vacant. They don't know how to express their own feelings. They don't know how to express their own perceptions. They don't even know how to express how they feel at a core level. Think about how sad that is. That is a life lost. Thank you for tuning in today to Brain Foreplay, where you get your checkup from the neck up.
Don't forget to join us next week, same place, same time, to get your checkup from the neck up, fortified by foreplay. That's Brain Foreplay. And please remember to subscribe to this channel wherever you get your podcast.